World Economic Forum is coming for America's entertainment. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. And today I want to talk about secularization, globalization, the rise of cultural degradation in America, in America's entertainment system, and the World Economic Forum. That is a mouthful, I know, but stay with me because it is connected. Before I get into all that, I want to give a quick shout out to edify.app. That is the online platform for faith-based podcasts, which I'm happy to say Bold and Blunt is among its lineup. So if you like Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt, of course, at washingtontimes.com, but you can also go to edify.app and download it there. What is happening to America's Hollywood, to America's entertainment system, to America's entertainment culture? It's certainly gone down a deep, dark hole of cultural rot, right? And you know what? This isn't new. Talking about Disney, woke Disney, that's new. But the idea of the entertainment system, the entertainment community in America being infiltrated by forces that just want to promote rot over anything that is remotely decent to watch or listen to, that's been going on. That's a discussion that we've had in America for a very long time. For instance, let me read this from Truth Magazine. A little bit of this essay that was posted in 1994. It's entitled Things Which Are Contributing to Secularism in America, TV, and the Movies. The secularization of America, this piece goes on to say, is damage done in part by the relentless assault of Hollywood on the public image of religion. For many years now, and again, this was written in 1994, the movies and TV have tried to pretend that religion is nothing more than a relic from the past, despite the fact that studies have repeatedly shown that around 50% of the U.S. population still considers religion an important part of their lives. A recent Gallup survey showed that only 5% of TV characters practice religion in any way. The almost totally secular view of society in entertainment should not be surprising. As a group, the individuals who produce movies and TV programs are very much more secular in their own lives than the U.S. population at large. Okay, so that was from 1994. And certainly, you can make a case that the secularization of the entertainment industry has only grown worse because as it represents society in general in America has grown more secular, according to many, many, many recent polls. So that was 1994, talking about that for years. Jump to January of 2015, there was a piece published in GE.com by Richard Gelfond, IMAX Corporation executive, who wrote, The Globalization of Entertainment. And this is an interesting view. The entertainment industry, like so many others, he wrote, is undergoing enormous changes as a result of globalization and the extraordinary growth of the worldwide middle class. The impact of globalization on the entertainment industry, he continues to write, has resulted in a significant shift in the global box office. Until recently, the U.S. generated 2/3 of the global box office, while the rest of the world contributed 1/3. Today, and remember, this is 2015 today, the reverse is true. Think about it. Nearly 70% of the global box office is generated outside of the United States. For the American entertainment industry, it would be foolish to ignore these numbers. And just to sidestep quickly, I suppose that's why you get headlines like this one from July 2019 from Insider. Headline that reads, "Looks like the new Top Gun bows to China's Communist Party by censoring Maverick's jacket." Remember that? It was big news back then. The sequel to Top Gun appears to have bowed to China's powerful Communist Party by changing the jacket of Maverick, the character played by Tom Cruise. The sequel has a new patch, Insider reported in 2019, that removes the Taiwan flag and even the Japan one on a Navy patch of Maverick's jacket. That was big news then. Now, according to this piece in GE.com, now we can kind of see why. Today, the traditional models for creating, distributing, and monetizing content, he went on to write in GE.com, have changed. U.S. studios are paying more attention to international box offices than they used to. In some cases, more attention than they pay to U.S. box offices. Virtually no big budget movie in Hollywood is approved without considering what its box office potential could be in, get this, drum roll, China. Likewise, foreign studios are starting to think about their own export markets. Budgets in developing countries are increasing rapidly, and Hollywood would do well to take note. And I'll finish with this, that he writes, "What does all of this mean for the future of entertainment around the world?" Well, you could make a case that it means more headlines, like I just read from the 2019 piece in Insider about Top Gun. These things aren't happening just by themselves. If you look at the World Economic Forum, weforum.org, you can see that there is an actual globalist design, globalist strategy, globalist plan to use the entertainment industry in America and elsewhere to push the globalist vision. Listen to this, and then I'll bring on my guest. January 24th of this year, a headline at World Economic Forum, weforum.org, "We shouldn't underestimate the power of cultural products. They can change the world." And here are the bullet points from this piece. Cultural products exert great influence on international relations. Bullet point number 2, they are also capable of affecting social change in many different areas. And bullet point number 3, reflecting this importance, creatives should be more integrally included in international forums. So, let's have at the United Nations sessions, for example, according to this WeForum piece, more discussion about how to slide the globalist agenda into Hollywood. Back to this piece. Cultural products such as films and TV series are a staple leisure time option around the world and have been especially present in our lives during the pandemic. So why is it that, given the great influence they have on our daily lives, the headlines and worldwide trends, they are still often written off as simple entertainment? The World Economic Forum seems to suggest that it should be part of the globalist plan going forward to inject the globalist vision any which way they can into the world of entertainment. As if America's entertainment world isn't already degraded by anti-American messaging, immoral narratives, immoral messages, immoral teachings, immoral illustrations, immoral plot lines. As if the entertainment world in America hasn't already contributed greatly to tearing down the moral compass of America. Now here comes the World Economic Forum, hoping to piggyback on that cultural degradation by offering up globalist visions, by giving Americans in the entertainment world a big old heaping plate of pro-collectivism. That's the last thing we need at this point in time, especially coming off 2+ years of the coronavirus clampdowns, where the left successfully sold the idea of collectivism over individualism, where the left successfully ramped up fears in order to seize individual God-given liberties and in their place shove in ideas that everything we do in America should be done for the greater good, should be done for the good of our fellow man, should be done for the good of our neighbor, even when the so-called science shows that what we're told by the government to do for our fellow human being is ridiculous, insane, and outright deceptive. But that is the way of the collectivists. And so now, here we are. Watch out for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Here comes Hollywood with more purposely divined, World Economic Forum fueled ideas of collectivism and narratives that promote cultural Marxism and communism and socialism and hatred for capitalism and individual liberties. So where is a good patriotic American to turn the television set? What channel to watch? What movies to see? And thankfully, there are alternatives out there. There are pro-America, even, dare I say, Christian, faith-based, pro-Christian, pro-faith alternatives and options out there. And my guest today is here to outline some of these amazing alternatives. His name is Neal Harmon. He is the CEO of Angel Studios, and I'm happy to say he's on Bold and Blunt today to talk about options to the cultural rot that Hollywood and most of the rest of the entertainment industry actually present these days. Neal Harmon, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on, Cheryl.
So your studio is the one responsible for The Chosen. And for those who may not have heard about The Chosen, which is difficult to imagine, but for those who may not have heard about The Chosen, could you kind of detail what that is all about?
The Chosen is a multi-season TV series about the people who, during this life, Christ touched. And it takes small phrases and small encounters in the scriptures with Jesus, and then it tells plausible backstories to what might have led up to that event. For example, when Peter was out all night fishing, and in the morning Christ told him to cast his net on the other side of the boat, it has a story for what led up to that event, and it really helps bring home the stories in the scriptures in a way that we can understand them today.
Right. It really makes the Bible stories come alive, yes?
Yes, it sure does for me.
Now, what's amazing about The Chosen is the stats that your PR people sent me show that it has been viewed over 400 million times. It's been translated into 58 different languages and has raised over $40 million so far from just people donating to keep this series alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a phenomenal movement there. And we have a very ambitious goal together of reaching over 1 billion people with this show. In Angel Studios, we believe we can reach this goal by 2027. We think it's really possible to do so, and it's very exciting because it seems like everyone who encounters the show so far wants to go back to the scriptures or wants to get more involved in the scriptures and understand and improve their relationship with Christ. So this is a phenomenal project. We're excited about the results of it.
So I should have clarified that almost all of the funding that went into the development of The Chosen was done by crowdfunding.
Yes. And I will, let me make one distinction, Cheryl, if I may. At Angel Studios, the creators get greenlit because the audience puts forward the money to make the first season of the project. So in the case of The Chosen, the audience, 19,000 people invested over $10 million to make season 1 of The Chosen. And all of those people are now shareholders. They own part of The Chosen alongside of Dallas and his team.
Wow.
And that's really exciting for them. And they're part of this really important story, and they're the reason this story has happened. And in fact, we named our company after these people. We named it Angel because these people, the angel investors, are the reason that these stories get to the world. Later, after a show is produced, we have innovated a technology called Pay It Forward, where everyone can watch The Chosen for free. And then after they watch the show and they love the show, if they want it to help it reach more people, they pay it forward. And the pay it forwards are named that way because they aren't donations. They're actually people paying it forward, purchasing for others that are coming down the road to watch the show. And that's what's happening. That's how the funding for future seasons and episodes has happened, and that's how we've spent tens of millions marketing the show all over the world so that we can reach 400 million views, and so that we can reach dozens and dozens. The Chosen is now just being viewed in over 180 countries throughout the world. So it's because of the viewers and the audience that is happening, and we're so excited to facilitate that.
Now, just to put it in proper context, how does that differ from how normal series or shows on television are produced and brought to the public?
So typically in Hollywood, the creator takes a script or a sizzle reel to the studio, and then the studio has a few, they have a review committee, a green light committee, that watches the show or the pilot or the sizzle reel or reads the scripts and decides whether or not they want to green light the show. So it's just a few Hollywood executives that are making that decision. With Angel Studios, it's the audience that makes that decision. And the creator brings a pilot or a short film that helps communicate the vision of what they want to do. In Dallas Jenkins' case, the director of The Chosen, he brought a short film called The Shepherd. And The Shepherd told the story of the birth of Christ through the eyes of one of the shepherds. Those who know that story from the scriptures know that there were shepherds who that same night received an angelic visit and were told to go to the birthplace of Christ, to the manger, and to worship him and celebrate his coming to the world. And Dallas told that story of the birth of Christ through one of those shepherds, and he told it through the eyes of a maimed shepherd. And anyway, so it really communicated the vision of what The Chosen would be, which is plausible backstories to the people who encountered Christ. And then that's what people watched in order to greenlight the show. And they put their own money up to make sure that it was made because they wanted that show to make it to the world. And so what's exciting about Angel's model is twofold. One, because the audience and the people are making the choice, it's not going to get corrupted by a few Hollywood executives who decide that they want to push their own personal agenda on the audience, because the audience is making the decision. And two, for creators who have really important stories to get out in the world, that are stories that wouldn't be accepted by Hollywood executives, like, for example, The Chosen. The Chosen didn't have an audience in Hollywood and couldn't have been made in that path. Well, the audience with this model gets to say, we don't care if Hollywood wants to make it or not. We want that to be made, and we want it to reach the world. And that is what happened with The Chosen.
I love that. What an amazing model. And it just, what's your story? Because you said that Angel Studios actually got named after those who provided the angel donations. So that would lead me to ask, which came first, the studio or the chosen?
That's a good question. So, again, these are not donations, they're investments projects.
Okay.
And Angel Studios now has over 50,000 people who have invested in various projects that are in various stages of development, and we'll probably have over 100,000 angels by the end of this year. So I'll give you a short version of this story. So Angel Studios started clear back in 2012, a decade ago, when some brothers with young children and a cousin, we wanted to have better stories for our children. We had young children, and we wanted to share with them great stories. And we had this vision that we could build a service that would allow families to pre-program their remote. Some families, they'll go watch a movie, and then as soon as there's an offensive scene, mom or dad will jump up, skip over the scene, so that they don't have that in their home. Well, we built this service that would allow you to pre-program your remote, and you could skip over the scenes that were offensive. And we figured if we built this service and built it well, that we could attract an audience of people who are like-minded, and that we could produce and distribute stories better than Hollywood could for these people. And the first iteration of this, back in the early days, all we could afford was the name VidAngel. And we got sued for providing this service to the world by Disney.
Why?
And we fought a 4.5-year legal battle.
Why did Disney sue?
They sued for the same reason. So there had been over a dozen companies that had tried this previously.
Okay.
Almost all getting shut down from a previous lawsuit in the early 2000s. And they argued back then when they sued that it was for copyright infringement, and that's what they argued again with us. And we went, different than the rest of the companies, they kind of did it in a closet back in the 2000s. They made their edited movies and filtered movies, and then they distributed them. And because of that history, we went and said, okay, we're going to write all the studios, tell them what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we make the money, and we're going to ask them for their feedback. And we did, and we followed up, and it was crickets. Nobody would respond to us or give us any kind of feedback. The only one I remember was Fox, and they set up a meeting and then never showed up. And then so we launched the service with the advice of a super experienced Hollywood attorney of 30 years, and a year later, the service was proving successful. And when we asked our audience if they would like to invest in the company to help it grow, 2 weeks after we asked whether they'd be interested in investing, Disney sued us. And we believe it was to stop us from getting that money. And we thought that the company was over at that time because startups don't survive Disney lawsuits. But we went back to our audience and said, look, forget the money to try to grow this company. We just need enough to survive, or else we're going to be put out of business. We need $5 million to fight this lawsuit with Disney. And that audience, the audience, 8,000 people invested over $10 million in 5 days.
Amazing.
Right in the middle of a Disney lawsuit.
Amazing.
And that saved our company. We used $5 million to fight the lawsuit and $5 million to start the studio. Right after we had raised that money, one of the co-founders, my brother Daniel, called and said to me, Neal, imagine if we allowed the audience to invest in a really great show in the same way we just allowed them to invest in Good Angel. And it just clicked. And from that day, we decided that we were going to, that was going to be the right model to decide. Because whoever has the gold makes the rules. And the problem with Hollywood is Hollywood's making the rules, and the elite are making the rules for our society and for the world. And if it's the people who are providing the gold, then the people can tell the stories that matter the most to them. And so it really clicked for us. But at that time, we were still called Good Angel. We were still fighting this legal battle. We immediately launched a show called Dry Bar. It's a stand-up comedy series. And that was our very first show, and it now has reached billions of views and about 150 billion people audience worldwide. And that was the show that we were doing when Dallas Jenkins and Amanda met us, and we decided together that we were going to set out on this journey to make The Chosen Angel Studios' flagship show. Netflix has a flagship show. It's when they got started in the original content business. It was called House of Cards. And HBO had a flagship show. It's an awful, in my opinion, it's an awful show, but it's called Game of Thrones. And these shows help, create their studio and help kind of plow the future for all the creators who are coming. And Dallas and Amanda and we agreed that The Chosen would be the flagship show for Angel Studios. And then in 2000, so we launched The Chosen season 1 in 2020, or maybe it was late 2019. And we launched season 2 in 2021. And also in 2021, we were able to finally acquire the domain name angel.com, and then we rebranded to the name we wanted all along, which was Angel Studios. So.
And our time's almost up, but I did want to ask a couple of other questions. What great timing, really, maybe even divinely inspired, because as Disney is going full woke and just anti-Christian, really, hostile to America and America's values, here you guys come making a huge mark with not just The Chosen, but you also have other productions in the works. If you'd like to just detail what you have coming up, I'm sure listeners would be very interested.
Oh, Cheryl, my kids are so excited about what's coming. So this Christmas, we have a series, an animated series. One of the main actors is the lady who played Ariel in The Little Mermaid.
Oh, wow.
And, it's called Wing Feather Saga. And we're so excited about this show. My kids have loved the books, and Wing Feather Saga is coming out this winter. We have a huge theatrical show that's coming. It's called David. And if you think of Prince of Egypt and the epic music that's in Prince of Egypt, and then you think of like Moana or Tangled and how fun those movies are, this is like an amalgamation of those ideas. And the creators behind it are from South Africa. They're amazing. They're about as far on the earth as you can get from Hollywood. But they have Disney and Pixar and other pedigree, and they've just decided to take animated films into their own hands, and that's a $54 million project that's going to look as good as what Hollywood spends $200 million to make. And there's so many shows coming. Just go to angel.com. You can check all the shows that are coming out. Check them out and be part of Stories That Matter.
Right. So I was going to ask you for your website and how people could connect and keep up with updates. So it's angel.com. That's where people can go to see what series you have coming out. But also, if they want to kick in and become investors themselves, is the info there?
Yes, it is. Just click Get Involved on that page if you want to do that. Or click Watch, and you can start watching the shows that are already available. Either way, we'd love to have you come be part of Angel Studios.
And one more quick question, Neal, because I really find this fascinating. Your growing successes in the face of polls that show increasingly Americans are growing more and more secular and less attending church. So what do you make of this?
It's for me, it's sad because my spiritual life is a fountain of strength and as Christ says, living water for me. And it's sad that people are not finding that. But I feel like society is in a pendulum, and particularly Europe and the U.S. or the Americas, we've had such a period of abundance, and there's this pattern in the scriptures where people become wealthy and successful, and then they forget God. Yep. And then hard things happen, and then they remember God. That happens over and over again, and I know He's always there helping us, and trust that as we go through hard experiences, that we as a people will repent. I think humanity on a whole is good and loves God, and that there will be a turning back to Him.
Well, for me, it shows me that maybe because of your success, that some of these polls out there are wrong, and that America is not as secular as the leftists in the media and polling world would have us believe. So I take great optimism in the work you do, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on Bold and Blunt and showcase some of your fine efforts.
Well, thank you so much for helping get the message out, Cheryl, and really appreciate you having us on, and have a great day.
God bless. The website, once again, is angel.com, ANGEL.com. You go there and you're treated to a headline like this: Stories that Amplify Light. There you go. There's your option. There's your option. There's your alternative for the rot that is feeding into your children's minds and making them believe that America is the worst country on earth. We ought to apologize for America. That things like adultery and recreational sex are just natural human functions. That the LGBTQ movement is rampant and widespread and normal. And all the other things that you hate your kids to learn in this secular world, but they're still finding ways to learn it. So here's the option, angel.com. I want to thank you for listening. I want to remind you that if you like Bold and Blunt, you can go to edify.app and download Bold and Blunt. You can go to washingtontimes.com and find Bold and Blunt there. Subscribe to my newsletter, my 3 times a week newsletter, by scrolling to the bottom of washingtontimes.com and finding the newsletter section, clicking on it and finding my name, clicking on that and signing up. You will get my 3 times a week newsletter with all my commentaries that I write for the Washington Times, along with my twice weekly Bold and Blunt podcasts. And you can also get Bold and Blunt anywhere podcasts are offered. One other quick note, make sure and pick up a copy of my latest book. It just came out, Lockdown, the Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. The left does not want you to read this book, and guess what? Neither does the World Economic Forum. But check it out. I want to thank you for listening. Tune in next time, and in the meanwhile, stay blunt, stay bold.